today is the 11th annual Upstate Latino Summit, which is being held in Rochester this year and hosted by the Ibero-American Action League. Upstate Latino Summit came about because a bunch of the Latino organizations in upstate New York decided to get together and put this together because we needed to talk about the issues that are impacting Latinos in upstate New York versus New York City. The New York City Latinos had been dominating the dialogue, and it's understandable it's a much larger population, but our needs, our challenges, our opportunities are different. I hope they get a greater awareness to the Latino community, and we have people that are both Latino and non-Latino here, and for our Latinos, just because you're Latino doesn't make you an expert on the community, and not in all aspects of it. So this is an opportunity for our folks to know more about their community and non-Latinos to understand how to work with our community.
We're not going to program our way out of poverty. And oftentimes what you hear is, what are you looking to do to support people impacted by poverty? You've heard that question before, right? Very seldom do you hear, what are we going to do to not only create the conditions for people to be self-sufficient, but what are we going to do to mitigate the barriers that cause people to be in poverty? Poverty is a creation. It's not by default as much as it's by design. America is an economy that drives and thrives off of labor, some shape, form, or fashion. Now, when you have that conversation, it gets very uncomfortable depending on the audience, but this is the reason why I make reference to it. And the 3 points that I'm going to make. One is that policies, institutional practices are what created the conditions we better know as poverty. When you look at redlining, when you look at the concentration of poverty, when you look at extreme poverty, you look at the segregation that exists amongst our communities, that is not something that just happened. People didn't select to be in poverty, right? So that's a systems approach that we need to take. That being said, when you look at poverty reduction efforts across the country, and what Rochester's looking to model, there's 3 specific things that help move people out of poverty: raising wages, creating jobs, and having benefits that support the needs of families. We would be remiss if we did not entertain, if not address those 3 things to helping people impacted by poverty and the systems that created it. The second is that there are some fundamental things. In order for you to arrive at systems change, there are some very subtle things that has to happen. When we talk about structural racism, trauma, community building, we're talking about shifting attitudes and beliefs. There's this thing called public will and political will. And in order for policies to change, guess what you need to have? Public will and political will. Because again, the status quo does benefit those persons that created these conditions that we find ourselves addressing. The third thing, it's not the work of one person. It takes an entire community to hold these institutional leaders and politicians accountable, given the fact that it takes policy in order to move the conditions for people in poverty. So in Rochester, we're taking it from that particular perspective for a host of different reasons. We've had very successful programs for the last 50 years, but guess what happened to the population? Poverty continued to increase. We continue to pray and spray. We're not intentional, deliberate, and we have to start using data in a much more intentional ways. So we're looking to do that as well. So 3 things, just to be very brief, because I could talk for hours on this. What I say, politics, right? So there's, not politics, I'm sorry. There's policies and institutional practices. There's public will, political will. And there's shifting the attitudes, the beliefs, and holding persons accountable, which is the work of community. And that's the work that we're doing in Rochester.